Lydia, the lifestyle coach, and I am so excited to be here today with our incredible guest that we are celebrating. You guys, our mission is to end eating disorders, and doing that with using nothing but your brain, because you get your brain your whole life. Like, that is going to be with you the whole time. So if you're depending on something outside of your brain to change your relationship with food, well, then I don't know how that's going to go, because that thing may go away, that thing may change, but you always have your brain and you live your whole life from that. So we're talking about binge eating and bulimia and food obsession and overeating and food addiction and binge urges and overeating urges and all of that stuff that comes with being in a place where food is ruling your life. And we see freedom every day. That's what we love. That's what we get to enjoy. We've seen it hundreds and hundreds of times. But what's so fun is to see each individual person and how that impacts their lives. And I've got to tell you, like, I'm so excited for today because we are going to be able to celebrate with somebody who is just so phenomenal, so much fun, just totally gets it. It's been an incredible and is an incredible part of our community and has a phenomenal story and just such a cool person. So I'm super excited to hang out with our amazing Rhiannon. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
So fun to see you here. I'm super excited to celebrate with you. So Rhiannon, let's start from the beginning. Tell us a little bit about how this all happened. If you just want to like say a little bit about like you, then that's cool. Or if you just want to launch to your story, that's cool as well. But tell us how this started and sort of your first relationship with food wobbles or distortions that you were seeing earlier in life.
Oh gosh, yeah, it goes all the way back to my childhood. As a little kid, I was a big eater, and Italian grandma even encouraged me, manja, eat, to have seconds and thirds and whatever, and that was fine. And then I got to the point to where I was shopping in the Husky section as a little kid, and got made fun of in school. And then I went on my first diet, and I think I was 12. And ever since then, I have been yo-yo dieting the whole time. And I just kept thinking, what is wrong with me? Why isn't my willpower good enough? Because I would lose weight. And then 6 months later or less, I'd gain it all back and then some. And I just would always look around and go, why am I chubby? Why can't I be skinny like everybody else that I want to be like? And I was just always beating myself up, just always thinking it was this one thing in life that I could not get a handle on. And I wasn't in emotional distress about other things. I was always a really good student, graduated with honors, got a master's degree. I have a sweet career in aerospace, hence my Gemini space capsule shirt. Hey, nerds.
Awesome.
So I feel like my life is great. And then there's just this demon over here that was food obsession and diets and yo-yoing up and down 80 pounds any given year, just all over the place. And thinking about food all day while I'm trying to have my career and relationships and friends and family, and just so much time spent on freaking food and what diet am I going to go on? And well, I'm off the rails now, so screw it. And, just all the emotions that come with that, the disappointment, the frustration, and then the just judgment, the self-judgment. And literally no one else was doing this. It was me. No one else was looking at me going, oh my gosh, Rhiannon has a horrible weight problem and she needs to diet and she needs to do this and that. It was all me. And I was just treating myself so horribly, especially in regards to diet and food and exercise and you name it. And then, smatterings with eating disorders too, anorexia, bulimia peppered in throughout my diet history, binging for sure, overeating for sure, restrict binge cycles. And it's just been, it's been going on for over 30 years. And I got to a point to where I was looking at my weight on the scale and it was at the high range again. And I was like, what diet am I going to go on now? And then I had a friend recommend to me to read Brain Over Binge. And then I had the audiobook. So I got the Lydia experience reading Brain Over Binge. And then I looked up the author and I looked up you and found out that you had this program. And within 3 days of finishing that audiobook, I was enrolled in the Beat the Binge program because I was done.
Oh, and we'll get there because like that's so, so good. And I love it and celebrating your journey. But oh, Rhiannon, this is just such an amazing celebration after 30 years of this, right? And you bring up something so important, which is how much internal pressure and internal blame. Like nobody's doing this to myself but me. I'm the one judging myself. I'm the one saying this needs to happen. I'm the one that keeps on eating the things that are making me gain all of the weight back. And I can totally appreciate and have been there with this utter confusion of like, I'm an aerospace engineer. Like I am smart. I can do things. I can figure things out. I'm not like, my life isn't like falling apart all over. And this is just another thing. Like there's my life and there's me and there's who I think myself to be. And then there's this thing with food. There's this struggle and this yo-yoing and this like anguish. And yeah, it's so, so frustrating. And like when you would be back up at that high range, right? Like with the yo-yoing and the up and down, like what was really the hardest part about that for you, Rhiannon, of just seeing it happen over and over?
I felt like a failure. And I've always been very driven, an overachiever type A as you can get. And just to feel that failure all the time and feel like, well, why can't I do this? Yeah, I'm an engineer. I can follow plans. I can create projects. Like, how could I not do this? What is stopping me from having success in how I run my body? Which, it's what you've got at the end of the day. Everything else is just extra. So it was so frustrating, so debilitating. Fear of failure. And then of course that starts another cycle of really beating yourself up, trying to figure out what you did wrong again. And then it's willpower, or it's, you didn't find the right diet, or, you couldn't stick with it, or blah, blah, blah. And then it just, that cycle was really tough to go through. And of course I didn't share it with anybody. Of course, in our society, women especially are pressured to maintain a body size that may or may not be realistic for you. And I would have buddies who were struggling, and we'd be like diet buddies, accountability buddies, I would call them. Did you get to the gym today? Did you follow your calorie plan today? And so going through that, we'd all say, yeah, we know the drill. We've gained the weight back. Look at our pictures of us from 2 years ago when we were 30 pounds lighter. And, just so much torment, so much pain in that, really. I can't stress it enough. And I feel so free now. It's almost even hard to relate to that much pain because I feel so good.
You're like trying to relate to your past self, where it's like, I know I was really, really miserable, but that's the nice thing about freedom is like, you start losing touch with how miserable you were so quickly, which is totally awesome. But yeah, like that, and that secrecy, right? Of like, the more that we feel like failures, like the less people you want to tell, because the less people you want to have see you like fail over and over. And then with something like weight, it's so visual, right? Where it's like, I'm not telling anyone I'm struggling, but they can see me. They can see that like I'm a different size, like from this year to that year, this 6 months. And like, yeah. And especially with who we are and how much we do in our lives, to like you said, like type A, high achiever, to just have that feeling of failure that just feels like it bleeds over to everything else.
It does.
Yeah. And how, for you, Rhiannon, like on your journey, how did that impact you to have this area of life where you just like felt this failure, and how did that impact the rest of your life and who you were and how you got to interact with the world?
At the risk of sounding a little dramatic, I don't think it is though. I felt like I was living a lie, like I was living a dual life, because in my role at work, I'm actually a continuous improvement engineer, an industrial engineer, and I help people fix things and improve things. And I'm like, oh, well, this is the one thing I can't improve about myself. I could apply these rules to project improvement, and I'm still not getting there, and I'm still struggling. So yeah, I felt like I was a bit of a hypocrite, maybe living a lie, not able to apply tools that I knew would work. And I just couldn't figure out how to make them work for me. And I just didn't realize all the approaches were set up to fail, that all those diets were never going to be sustainable for me. and that it really wasn't my fault. I just didn't realize that. And so I was caught in this loop of recurring issues, right? And so I just was never getting at root cause. So frustrating. And yeah, I felt like I was kind of living this hypocritical dual life where I'm giving people advice, but here I am gaining weight again or whatever. And it felt very, very conflicted.
Yeah. And I absolutely hear that. Really just acknowledge like it's a really hard thing, especially because we're good people of integrity, people who would like, it's like want to do good things and improve ourselves. It's not like you're like, I don't care to improve myself. It's just like, I've been trying really, really hard for like 30 years to like figure out this thing. And one thing that I know, I don't know if you experience this or not, Rhiannon, but I know this is a really common feeling. So I'd be interested to hear, like, with that dual life, then there are celebrations of like, as an engineer, I've helped this person to make improvements. And it's like, you can never quite lean into that celebration because there's like the, but you can't figure this out for you. Like, were you experiencing that as well?
100%. And then I also moonlight as a musician, and I've been in bands for many years, and I've played everything from rockabilly to heavy metal, and I've been in all kinds of bands, and I felt the same way there. It's like, yes, I'm an accomplished musician, but I don't look as good as I should on stage. I'm not all, the skinny person musician on stage that could ever be famous. And that always held me back from going for it musically. A lot of people would say, wow, you were musically very talented, but you never like went for it. And I always felt like, well, you got to be skinny to do that. So I'm not doing it. And that really was ridiculous. And it held me back, and just so not productive, and so not even necessarily true. That was just what I imposed upon myself. So yeah, it didn't hold me back at work as much as it did with my hobbies, with music. I always felt like, oh, I look terrible on stage. I never wanted to post pictures of myself because I didn't meet that model-esque ideal. I'd even told my husband, I wish I could be willowy and thin. And he's like, well, you're not. And that's okay. He's like, you're sturdy and strong and tough and awesome. And you don't have to be willowy. And I, for some reason, always wanted that. And so I was holding myself to an impossible standard. It was never going to happen, ever. So, yeah.
I'm so glad you bring this up, because it's like, there's I'm holding myself to an impossible standard and I'm doing this to myself. And that's like totally the experience of how it feels. But then when you actually know what's going on, you're like, hold on, where did this impossible standard come from? Oh, the $66 billion diet industry, all media, all advertising, like just show us like, oh, if you want to, every successful woman, every famous actor, like there might be a couple of exceptions here and there, but then when they lose the weight, then we celebrate them and like, now they're really themselves, right? Like it's this standard that is just like so explicit from the moment we are born of what a woman should look like and what she needs to be. And then with diets, it's like, it's a 98% failure rate. And let's just be real. It's 100% failure rate. Like it's
it was
90, yeah, it's 98% of the time that people gain their weight back plus in 2 years after the diet. But just give someone the rest of their life. Like let's see like how often, that works, or where it's not just taking over your life. We're like, yep, I've maintained this weight for 10 years and it's a full-time job every single day. And I've made my whole career out of it because my whole identity has become this. Like, so we're literally set up to fail. It's like, why am I'm drinking this poison and I keep on getting sick. I'll just drink some more poison. Why am I even sicker? Like, what's wrong with me? So yeah, there's like this internal experience, but then the external, like that's what the world does, right?
It's huge. And and while I did admit and take full accountability for my complicity in my past and how I got here today, yes, you do bring up a great point. It's not entirely my fault. I've been fed a lot of messages. Oh, fed. I love those words. Loaded words. I've been fed all these messages that I should be skinny, and how dare I even think that I should be on stage playing music when I am not, a size 4 or something like that or whatever. And it takes a lot away from your achievements. But was always in there. So yeah, I don't appreciate the media's messaging and the diet industry's messaging, which, hey, they want you to keep failing, so you keep trying their products. And so it's a great scheme that they've got going. And wanted to be free from that. And I've tried stuff. I've paid for diets, I've paid for training, I've paid for even pills. I've even gone there. I'm sure a lot of people have when they get really desperate and they don't know what to do anymore because they've failed so many times. I started throwing money at the problem. I'd be like, okay, cool, I'm doing medical weight loss now. All right, well, let's throw some money that way. Cool, I'm going to buy this, couple $100 training book and figure that out that way. I'm going to spend $2,000 over here on this. I was really just so desperate. I just started throwing money at it, and they got theirs out of me. It worked.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're set up to do, right? It's like you just start throwing money at things, not even like thinking that they're going to work, just feeling like we're not in integrity unless we're just like throwing money at it. Because the message really is that, okay, maybe these pills are dangerous. Maybe this thing has long-term, side effects, but it's whatever risk is there. If it can make you thin, like that's the priority.
And
like
it's worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it. We literally have a culture that promotes no matter how dangerous it is. And I'm not saying this is right at all, but the message is it is better to be dead than to not be thin. It's better to be dead than to be fat. Like that is the message that women are fed.
And social media does not help. There were pictures of a friend of mine, a dear friend who's no longer with us, losing weight because that individual had cancer, and people were complimenting that person on their weight loss. That's the sick society we live in. That person was dying, and that person was on the heavier side before, and then they're like, "Oh, look at you, look great." He's dying. Wow. So it's not uncommon, and it's awesome to come to this program where we could actually be real and talk about stuff like that. Because, the media machine doesn't even want you to acknowledge that that's a real thing, that sometimes when people lose weight, they're not doing well. Oh, man. That made me verklempt a little bit thinking about my friend, but it's a real thing that happens. And there's that morality associated with weight where you're thin. So you must be morally upstanding. You must have control over yourself. What a great person you must be. And then you're not that thin. Oh, they're letting themselves go. They're a waste. They're not doing well. So that morality is real, and I've seen it. And it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. Like, there's another woman that I had on the channel. We did an interview together, and she talked about her experience with her mom, like literally dying in the hospital. And another family member was like, but at least you're getting to be thin. Like that was the comfort for her, like literally dying. Man, Rhiannon.
I have to share this real quick. My grandma was always on me about my weight my whole life, but she was the same one feeding me too. So interesting. And she was yo-yo dieting. I saw her do it her whole life. And when she was on her deathbed at the beginning of this year, actually, she had the wherewithal to still make jokes. And she said, "I finally have a beach bod."
Wow.
And she was kidding. But it was, there was truth there, because she was always struggling with her weight. And the way she said it, as a 93-year-old woman, beach bod, I mean, we know that it wasn't real, but she struggled with it her whole life, and it was coming out still to her dying days. And I could share a laugh with her, but there was so much pain underneath that.
Yeah. That our entire life's journeys, like with all of the potential that we have and all the things that we do, like Rhiannon, your amazing music and your incredible accomplishments, like it just makes me so happy that you are free, because like the thought of you with all of your incredible gifts and what you give to this world, to be on your deathbed thinking about your weight and not being good enough, and I never got to like the size that I want, like there's so many better things to focus on in life. And we live in a culture.
Amen.
Yeah, absolutely. That praises and compliments that. The most compliments I ever got on my physical appearance in my body was when I was my very sickest. I remember there was a week where, like, at the gym, I had like strangers walking up to me, like, you look amazing. Like, this is like, how do you do it? And it was literally 3-4 days later that I passed out in the gym because I was so eating disordered and so ill where I had to like I couldn't move. Like I passed out. I could have like died. I could have hit my head on the gym bathroom sink and died because I collapsed. But that was the price, right, of the body that I was getting all of these compliments on, right? So yeah.
Been there too. I got the most compliments when I was doing a 52-day juice fast. So I did not eat for 52 days. And I had some people going, wow, you look so good. And I remember playing a show towards the end of that fast. And, people going, wow, look how great you look. I was like, yeah, I haven't eaten for 52 days. Thanks.
Yeah.
When I go back to being a normal eating human, I'm not going to look this good anymore. Oh, darn. Ugh.
Yeah. And so it's like we have this cycle of a culture that creates an impossible standard that we are taking huge risk of like life and limb and sanity and health to try to meet that impossible standard. And then a society that reinforces and compliments when like people are at their, place where they're just so ill, right? I love seeing your dog in the background.
Yeah,
That's
he's
awesome.
like rooting around. I'm young. What are you doing?
He's making a nest.
he doesn't like when the bed is made. He always messes it up. I'm sure a lot of people have that experience with their pets.
Yeah, versus like, oh, it's more comfortable if you like dig at this, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
It's just a cycle in society that just reinforces it over and over and over. And then even us and our futures and our own dreams, right? Like I remember Rhiannon, like when I got into like visualization and thinking of what you want, like I could not visualize anything that I wanted because any time that I saw myself in like a circumstance or, manifesting something, my brain would just be like, but I have to lose the weight before then. Like I could not see myself successful or happy without being a lot thinner. So it was like cutting me off from being able to even dream.
Yeah. I mean, even stuff that had nothing to do with my weight, like I'll never get a promotion at work until I can drop these pounds and impress somebody higher up than me. I mean, that's just not even logical. It has nothing to do with it, but I did that to myself too, Lydia. I can relate.
Yeah. So Rhiannon, just honoring your incredible journey, anything else that you want to share about what it was like to be in an eating disorder and to be in this struggle?
I think I covered it pretty well. I'm just so happy to not be there anymore. And I can't believe how quickly I was able to get out of that mode of desperation, of self-harm, self-loathing, and willing to take those risks too. Those diet pills, they're not good for your heart. They're terrible for you. And I was willing to say, you know what? It's better than these extra pounds. And that's so not true. And I'm glad I don't have a distorted view of myself or the world anymore. I see things as they truly are now. Yeah.
Yes. I love that. So let's talk about freedom. And I'm super excited to dive into that with you. So before we get there, I just want to ask you really quick, Rhiannon, like this is such an interesting moment to me because everyone that we've helped, the hundreds and hundreds of people that are now free and get to see the world as it is and like get to have that freedom. There was a point where we knew that we could help them. We invited them in to our help. And you don't know that it's going to work for you yet because you haven't done it yet, right? Like we know that we can help you. But what was like in that moment, Rhiannon, when you were just like, I'm about to do a thing and I don't know if it's going to work. Like, what was it that gave you that strength and that courage? Or like, what was it that drove you in that moment to say yes to your freedom?
I was just so done. I was so done with diets. And that was my biggest thing. After reading or listening to you read Brain Over Binge, I knew I could not go on another diet. It just was not a good option. It was never going to be a good option. And so then my hope that I was clinging to was a life without diets. And I'm like, you know what? If I'm just going to try this, there's no diet. I've got to just do it. And I've got to hope that I can live without these freaking diets anymore. Because I talked about the pain of gaining the weight back, but how about the pain of being on this stupid diet? The restriction, the following the protocol, living your life around where you can go out to eat or not, and what you can even eat, bringing separate food to parties, just the asinine lengths that you're willing to go to stick to whatever plan you're on. That sucked. I mean, I talked about the emotional stuff and society stuff, but I don't think it's fun to eat steamed broccoli and baked chicken every day. I just, that's not a good time. And then to say, okay, I can have one cocktail a month so I don't get off my plan. Just like all the things you miss out on because you're doing that. I couldn't wait. So I was at my wit's end. I'm like, I'm done with diets. So this program's got to be my last hope to get away from freaking diets. I don't like restriction. I'm not a fan. When you guys said I could give up restriction right away, I was sold. I couldn't wait to give up restriction because I am not that type of person. I'm a hedonist, all in type of person. I'm not a let's cut back type of person.
Yeah. And can we just acknowledge that no matter where you're at in your journey, if you're listening to this, that no one is that type of person. Nobody likes being restricted. Nobody likes people like, oh no, but it's, it's like, but that's what I have to do. Okay. There's a difference between I have to do this and I want to do this, right? Like if somebody has the option to like, would you like to live your life free and eat what other people are eating and have experiences, or bring your own raw vegetables in a container with 0 carb ranch? Like, what would you rather do if it didn't have to do with weight? It didn't have to nobody likes being restricted. Nobody likes being limited, especially when people around them aren't. Like, that's not fun at all.
Yeah. Some people are better at sticking with it than I was. I just would check out so fast. I mean, like, I would have that momentum going. Oh, I've lost 12 pounds. I'm doing great. Sticking to the plan, it's working. And the next day I'd give up and be like, well, it was working. Why did you even give up? And I just would think about how unfun that was and go, yep, I don't want to look at another salad with fat-free ranch. I just don't. I'm just not gonna. And then I'd gain all the weight and then some, and then wonder why it happened, because in my mind, like, the consequences were somehow separated from the actions. I was unhealthy. I had dysfunction. And so, going off the rails after I decided I was done dieting and then eating everything in sight, I didn't then correlate that to my weight gain. I would look down and go, how did I gain all this weight back again? I don't even know. It's not rocket science, literally. And here I am doing it again. So yeah, knowing at the beginning of the program that there was no diet and no restriction, I'm like, all right, cool. I'm just going to do whatever they tell me, because I never want to diet again. And that was so motivating for me. That helped me get through the initial doubt phase.
Yeah. Love that. That's so, so cool. And then you were saying, like, this has been over 30 years that you had struggled with this. Like, timeline wise, how quickly did you start seeing like, oh, this works? Oh, I'm going to be out of this.
Yeah, within 2 weeks for me. And by week 3, I was feeling really steady. And your results may vary. I understand that. But yeah, for me, by week 3, I was rocking and rolling, and I could see how the principles of the program were indeed working. And I could start to get to the bottom of where things were coming from and why, and just break those old cycles and get out of those patterns and habits. And that freedom, what freedom even really means. That's another thing at the beginning of the program. I think freedom is a bit of a nebulous concept. And, free from what? Free from diets. Okay, I hear you. Free from exactly what? But yeah, that freedom really means like freedom from the struggle. It's not promising you that you're going to lose 30 pounds by the end of this 8 weeks. That's not what we're talking about. It's freedom from thinking like that. And everything that comes with that. And I didn't really understand at the beginning of the program what freedom even was. I just knew that it sounded good. And I was just like, okay, that's going to be enough. And that's one of the cool things we learned in this program, that sometimes you don't even have to fully trust in something to work. Just do it. Just try it. Yeah. And that works in so much in life. The phrase "fake it till you make it," which is definitely downplaying it. It's a little more negative, but if you keep trying something like this, that's going to be healthy and productive for you, even if you don't fully trust that it's going to work, the brain does start rewiring, and it does start breaking the old patterns down, and moving towards freedom.
Yeah.
So that it's just awesome that you don't
So
have to
fun.
fully believe in it for it to work.
Yeah, and I just love that. It makes me think of, we have this really awesome, awesome grad where she was like mega skeptical, like mega skeptical. And I think for her, it was maybe like 4 or 5 weeks in. She sent us a little message and she was
Hold
just
on.
like,
My dog out now.
well, oh yeah, you're good. She's like, well, I didn't think that it would work. And I still don't really even know how it's working, but I mean, I'm not binging, so I guess it works.
Yeah.
It's like majorly skeptical, but she did it. She did what we were telling her to do. Her brain rewired. She wasn't binging anymore. So cool. Celebrating with
Yeah.
you. And
Thank you.
Rhiannon, like, tell us about freedom. Like, what do you love most about living in freedom? Like, what are you just enjoying very most?
I no longer feel conflicted with my own self. I feel like a whole person that's not separately struggling over here, but doing well over here. That isn't like, oh, well, I got the brains, but I don't have the body. No, that's BS. I got it all. I'm a whole person. I'm functioning. I don't have to spend all day thinking about food, thinking about either what I'm going to overeat or what I'm going to diet and restrict on. I used to probably spend anywhere from 3 to 5 hours of my day while I'm working full-time jobs and moonlighting as a musician and doing this, that, and the other thing, thinking about stupid food. And it wasn't healthy. There was nothing good about that. It was not leading me to a place where I was healthy. It wasn't resulting in an awesome, healthy body and a healthy mind. It was awful. So yeah, freedom, waking up, having a bowl of cereal, getting on with my day, and then not thinking about food until I'm like, oh, it might be lunchtime. And then I look down and it's 12:30. Okay, cool. Yeah, I guess it's lunchtime. That never happened. That's a normal day for me now. It never happened. And then I just have what I want. You know, if I feel like salad, great. If I feel like something, a piece of pizza for 2, then I have that. It's awesome. I don't have to feel guilty about it.
Yes, yes, yes. And celebrating with you in that. And I just want to like really be clear here. Like this freedom that you are celebrating, this isn't like Rhiannon, we worked with her and now she feels fine about binging. Like this is not, like this is the freedom of being able to have food be a non-issue and actually eating way better because you're not in the extremes. Rhiannon can have pizza, she can have cereal, and she's still eating way better than when she was binging or what she was restricting. Like,
yeah, it's hard. When I said freedom was a nebulous concept, it's hard to describe. Freedom itself, once you get there, you know what it feels like. But it's the absence of all of that cycling and thought and time wasted and going back and forth and driving yourself crazy. You know, I remember when I first joined the program, I was thinking, oh, well, they're talking about this freedom thing. And when I get there, it'll be the angels singing from on high going, ah, you're free. And it'll be awesome. But it's not like that. That's kind of an extreme view. And then when you're over here, super frustrated and in the throes of your eating disorders, you're here. Freedom is actually in the middle. It's like the middle way. And it just, and you're not feeling extreme over here and horrible over here. You're just not giving a crap about what you know about food all day. It's so cool. And it wasn't really explained like that. Just like, do you want freedom? Yeah. And maybe it looks a little different for everybody. But I couldn't believe that it was the absence of feeling all torn up about what I'm doing and what I'm eating. It's just nothing. I just live my life. It's so cool.
it's so cool. And getting to live your life and like be in your real life. And I love how you describe that. You describe that so beautifully, Rhiannon. And it's like with the absence of the extremes where you don't have like, you know, emotionally and mentally, it's just pulling you one way or the other and it just takes over your whole life. What's really cool about that middle way when you're not being pulled to those extremes is that you get to be you. Like, because you're not over here on this extreme when you're not over here on this extreme. When you have that lifted from you, when you have that burden off of you, you get to actually be you.
Yep. Free to be myself. Yep. And yeah, for me, week one, I went through it. It feels like I went through the whole 8 weeks in week one. That was how my particular journey worked out. And I felt all the excitement, the anticipation, and then all the pain, and then all the heavy realizations, and the wobbliness and the craziness. And then yeah, by the end of like week two, coasting into week three, I was like, cool. And I was wondering if it would happen again. And for me, it didn't. I just felt like I got to where I knew what that freedom was, and I felt it, and I didn't want to engage in those behaviors anymore. It wasn't like a struggle to go, oh, I've got to white knuckle and fight so that I don't binge. It's just not even there. It's an absence of a thing. And it's like I said, it's kind of hard to describe when you are in that phase. It's really hard to know what it looks like on the other end. But yeah, it's not there. And I used to just want to keep eating so badly. If I was in the middle of a binge, I wanted nothing more on this earth than to just keep eating. And it didn't, anything else be damned. I just, oh my gosh, I got to keep eating. And it felt horrible, but also felt compulsory and somehow mandatory and somehow right. And now it's just not even there. I just eat the same foods I've binged on and stop after a bowl. And it just goes away. It went away. There's nothing that's even there to go away now. It's just not there.
No, it's so fun. And again, Rhiannon, you have such a gift for like describing what your experience is, which I just love because it's so wonderful to be able to like have words and to be able to hear that experience, because it's so, you're right. It's like, it's the absence of it. There's, one thing that I say is there's nothing as sustainable as doing what you want.
Yeah.
And when you don't want to binge anymore, when it's not like when somebody's like, hey, like you free binge, no calories, you won't gain weight. Like you just be like, no, I don't, why would I do that? Like that is unpleasant to me. Like that doesn't even make sense. When you don't want to do it, that's what's so permanent and sustainable about true freedom, is because you're not white knuckling it. It's not like you found a way to stick to a plan. You don't need a plan. Like, yay.
Yeah, it's easier to grocery shop. It's easier to cook. I also love to cook. And I used to curse myself for being such a good cook. If only my food weren't so tasty, I wouldn't have the urge to eat too much and gain weight. And now I'm able to cook again. I actually have a sourdough bread dough rising in my kitchen right now because I'm going to bake. I'm going to make some sourdough. But yeah, it's so nice to just be able to cook and not look for the low carb or the low fat substitutions. Or I had butter on my broccoli the other night, and usually I would only put it on my husband's broccoli, and then mine would be plain with just a little bit of seasoned salt. And I was like, I have butter on my broccoli, and it was delicious. And I'm like, I'm eating like a normal human. I can have butter on my broccoli and I don't have to feel badly about it. And it's not like I want to eat crazy amounts of butter and slather everything in butter and then fry everything. I don't want that. I mean, there's times where I'm in the mood for it, and that's great. But I don't feel like, yes, I'm just going to eat like crap all the time. That's not what it's about. It's kind of hard to explain, but just knowing that you can have stuff once in a while and when you want on your terms, then and it's all good and it's part of being a normal, healthy human, then it's awesome. It's very, very liberating indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how you noted, like, it's not like foods are good or bad, right? It's not like, oh, you found a way to avoid your binge foods for the rest of your life. It's that there aren't binge foods anymore. There are foods that you used to binge on, and now you can just have them because they're nice and they're tasty. And you don't have this relationship with them where it's just like this, like love, hate, so tumultuous, like just like, oh, I can have that and I can just move on with my day and not remember 4 weeks later that I had that on that day, and remember that and like, recording it in your app and like dwelling over it. It's just like, I had what I wanted, and it was fine because you get to be you. You get to make food choices from you, which is a trustworthy, wonderful human being. And for any of you listening that are like, I can't trust myself and I have no trust in myself and I've lost, just know that once you don't have all of these overeating and binge urges, you can totally trust yourself. because you
Yeah.
don't have a thing that's betraying you over and over. Yeah, go on.
And that didn't happen like a finger snap for me either. I remember week 2 and week 3, that was my biggest thing that I was freaking out about is, okay, I'm not binging anymore, but I'm still overeating. When will, can I trust myself? How can I know that I'm eating the right amounts of food? What am I doing to my body? And all those fears were creeping in, and they do fade over time, for at least for me. And the trust comes over time. Hey, I already was doing really stupid things with these diets and all these other things. This is way better than that. Having a little butter on my broccoli is much better than saying I'm going to go on some kind of radical diet, radical eating plan. So yeah, it takes time, but the trust does return. You're absolutely right. I didn't think I could even get there. I always thought somebody would have to hold my hand and tell me what to eat. Well, I'm a big girl and I can feed myself.
Yes, absolutely. And can I just acknowledge, like, it's so fun to see how quickly these principles work because you're actually doing something that works. You're applying all of that amazing who you are and your drivenness and your dedicatedness to something that is not set up to fail. So that actually gives you your success. So I just want to acknowledge, like, you're like, it didn't happen in a finger snap, but we're talking 30 years. And then it was like 3 weeks or 4 weeks that it took you to end your binging and like have trust with yourself. And like, so like,
yeah, feeling all those dysfunctions and thoughts that weren't serving me just slip away. In the last 4 weeks of the program. So it's an 8-week program. So the last 4 weeks was really me just feeling that stuff dissipate. Like realizing that I didn't even have problems anymore later after the fact. Like, oh yeah, normally when I'm home alone at night, I would just start binging, and I've been sitting here in my house for a half an hour and I just thought about it now that I would have been binging already. I'm like, oh, cool. That's not something I do anymore. And I'm like, wow. And it took me a half hour to even realize that I would have been T-1 second from my husband going to walk the dog from the door. I'd be already in the kitchen rooting around. And now I'm just sitting on the couch going, dang, I just realized that I haven't done anything remotely like my old behavior. And it took a while for me to even realize what I wasn't doing anymore. And I'm like, yes.
yes, that is so much yes. Like that's such a fun level of freedom where you don't even like, you have to like notice that you're not doing the thing that you would have always done before. It's just like, yeah, it's so cool. I love it. Love it. Love it. Anything else on your heart or your mind that you want to share about what it's like to be on the side of freedom?
Freedom side. I really did it did happen a lot more quickly than I ever thought. When I first joined, I thought, oh, maybe 6 months from now, I'll be able to be limping along as this healing person who's just finally coming out into her own with regards to food and how she treats her body and how she looks at herself. And it didn't take that long. When I felt it slipping away, I was like, wow, this brain rewiring is happening, and I know it because the evidence is the stuff isn't there anymore and the patterns are gone. And I really just thought, yeah, I'd be this kind of broken healing person for this really long time. Like I'd go through the 8 weeks and then 6 more months and then maybe a year later I might start to be free. And it just didn't take that long. As long as you do work the principles, it doesn't have to be this long drawn out, half broken, half healing type of process.
Yes. And isn't that so fun that it is that way, right? It's like, and you know what, if it would take 6 months of limping along, okay, like that's better than living the rest of your life with this. But isn't it nice that it happened so quickly? And like, this was over 30 years you were struggling with this. So sometimes we have people come to us that are like, well, there's no way that I could change, or it's going to take a really long time because I've been doing this for 25, 40 years. It's like, it does not matter how long you've been doing it. When you start doing what works, like your brain changes all the time. Your brain is created to change. So when you start actually changing it, then like, and doing what works and having those elements together, then you get to enjoy that. And like you said, you get to see the evidence of it because your behavior is changing and your thoughts are changing and those patterns aren't there anymore. And what is just heartbreaking to me is there are all these things that people try that there's no evidence of improvement, but it's like, I'll just keep on going back every week and like digging up my old stuff, or I'll just keep on, and they'll do that for like 10, 20, 30 years without any change. in their food stuff, but just hoping that someday something's going to click. And it's like, it's so nice to be able to see like, oh, I've been doing this for a week and I'm seeing changes. I'm doing it for 2 weeks. I'm seeing more changes. Like,
yeah. Yeah. And I'm not saying I'm free from self-doubt or, any vices or any weird thoughts that pop in. I'm not free from that, but I know how to deal with them now, thanks to this program. So, I mean, even today I woke up with a little bit of chatter because I felt slightly guilty for having chips and ice cream after dinner last night. But I used the principles and I dealt with it, and I'm doing great right now. I was able to let the guilt fade away pretty quickly by applying the principles and realizing that, yeah, a normal human who did physical labor for 9 hours might want to have a treat that night. It's okay.
oh, that's so awesome. And that's power, right? Of whatever happens, you know what to do about it. Like nothing can make you feel or do things that are out of your control. Like you get to know how to deal with those things. So
yeah, that full allowing. I love that, because when you're on a diet or following some program, you have almost no power. You're supposed to do everything that program says that you need to do, and or else it won't work. So that just gets you in this bind of, well, you want it to work, don't you? So you better just relinquish all your power of your decision making, your natural cycles of hunger and fullness, your natural inclinations towards wanting certain foods at certain times. Throw all that out the window and don't trust yourself and do this plan. And then, so now you're taking your power back and you're saying, I am the captain of this ship, the USS Rhiannon, woo woo. And we're going full steam ahead and we're living our lives. We're just going to do what we need to do. And we can trust that we can do it. And we're sailing ahead, and there's going to be a storm, but now we have the tools to get out of that storm and then keep going.
Yes. And that is where, I know it sounds obvious, but that is where someone's power should be. A woman's power should be within herself to make her own decisions, to be the captain of her own ship. Like that's one thing that I love. Like that's our mission at Life with Lydia is, yes, to end eating disorders, but so that people have their power back in their hands, because we trust that people are going to do good things with that. Like if anyone is controlling you, it should be you. Like, let's just give you back that power, because of course it should be you, and to be able to trust yourself in that. And Rhiannon, I want to celebrate. You have shown up. You have had a good time, which I love. You have practiced the principles. You have shown up coachable and open and real. And this is the result of that. And we love you so much. And it's so fun to celebrate with you. Yes, all the hearts. And anything else that is on your mind or your heart that you would want to express or say to those who are listening and like wanting hope themselves or on their own journeys?
Well, thanks for listening. And this is the only program you need. Seriously, it really is. It helps you with other aspects of your life too, besides just any kind of eating disordered or disordered views of food or your body image. The same principles that we learn on how to rewire our magical brains, they are magical, work for any type of stress, any type of situations you might find yourselves in, any types of patterns that you want to break out of. You can apply it to that. And that's why it's really the gift that keeps on giving. And even though I just graduated, I'm a fresh out, and I just got through correcting 30 years of eating disorders, I can't wait to apply these principles to working on my self-esteem in other ways, negative self-talk, eradicating that, kicking that to the curb because it doesn't serve me, making things in life harder than they need to be. These principles work for all that stuff.
Yes. And that's the fun thing, is like, this is just the first thing, right? It's like, this is a big thing. 30 years of struggles with food. Yeah, let's get that out of the way. But then you get to work on the other stuff and you know how to do it. And what an incredible celebration. So just amazing celebrating you. So much love. Just excited to see how this just keeps on getting better and better, because that's what it does. And in that, like the same way that Rhiannon started her journey, Rhiannon, she heard an audiobook, she sort of looked us up and found, but I want to give you guys like a direct line to the resource that she started with, which was our free masterclass. So if you go to lifewithlydia.com, then there's a free masterclass there with the 5 elements to end binge eating. That's that essential foundation. And then after that, you want to book a free breakthrough session with us. And then we can talk about really how this applies to you and your journey, because this is about you as an individual. So again, you can go to lifewithlydia.com, and it's so fun to celebrate with you, Rhiannon. Just adore you to the max. Anything else I can remind you today?
You are out there saving lives, and you're being a champion for us, and you're helping us realize how strong we all are. And I can't thank you enough. And I'm sure I speak for hundreds of other people that you helped. It's just so great that you are there to enable us to remember who we are, get past this BS, because it is, that's ruining our lives, and get on with the business of being our best selves. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I received that. That's like, thank you. Oh, just, this is what we get to enjoy. And we really do want this for everyone. No one on this planet that is struggling with food deserves to live their whole life that way. I believe that anyone who wants to be free should be able to have that freedom. And we know how to get people there. So let's do it. Let's bring down the $66 billion diet industry. Let's change society. And that starts with us getting free individually, one at a time, and then sharing like you are today, so that more people can have that hope. So thank you, Rhiannon, so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And if anybody's got lingering doubts, this program does not make you do anything that you do not want to do. That's another beautiful thing that I hadn't mentioned. There is absolutely zero in this program that is required. You do you on your terms, on your timeline. I'm, like I said earlier, I'm an all-in person, and I dove in head first and got, great results doing that. But you don't have to. You can take things at a slower pace. You can practice the principles on a longer timeline, and they'll still work for you, because there's no BS. There's no nuggets of this program that are wrong and that are meant to keep you trapped in any kind of bad cycles. Like, I've done the truth test on every principle of this program. There's nothing in there that's snake oil and that's not going to work. So you just do you. And they never, ever, your coach, if you do choose to enroll in this, will never tell you to do anything that you absolutely don't want to do. It is on your terms, and it passes all the truth tests. So just know that if that's like one thing that might be holding you back, is like, what are they going to tell me to do now to try to get to this point? Absolutely nothing that you don't want to do. That's what they'll tell you. So
yes, that is so good. Thank you for sharing that, Rhiannon. I love that. What a beautiful, amazing story. We just adore you. Thank you for your incredible words from your heart about your experience. And amen to everything that you said. Yes, absolutely. And just amazing celebrating you today. So you guys, this is Lydia, the lifestyle coach, and Rhiannon signing off. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi, this is Lydia, the lifestyle coach, and after helping hundreds of people move from food prison to food freedom using only their brains, I am confident that anyone can be free who wants. If you would like a free session with our team, you can go to lydialifestyle.com. Would love to see you there.